find you for a little time, a child of mine, he said, for you to love the while she lives and mourn for when she's dead. She'll bring her charms to gladden you, and should her stay be brief, you'll have her lively memories as solace for your grief. Judith, we just want to say that we love you and we all miss you very much.
Judith Barsi, a beautiful, talented 10-year-old girl, loved by everyone she met. Already a successful actress in commercials, Judith was on her way to stardom after roles in Growing Pains, Jaws 4 with Michael Caine, and Fatal Vision, the true story of a doctor convicted of murdering his wife and children. For Judith, this role was a foreshadowing of her own fate. On a Wednesday morning in July, firemen found Judith and her mother Maria murdered by Judith's father, Joseph Barsi. Barsi then set fire to the house, went into the garage, and took his own life. How did Joe Barsi's love for his family come to end in violence and death? Joe's daughter from his first marriage, Augie, points to the beginning of his life in Hungary and his illegitimate birth.
Back in Hungary, if you don't have a father, I mean, that's just like the plague. And so when he would go to school, kids would make fun of him, always make fun of him. And my father had absolutely no self-esteem. The only time my father really felt like he was a person was when he was drunk.
After Joe's violence-filled marriage to Augie's mother ended in a bitter divorce, he entered another abusive relationship with Maria Virovac.
Maria came from an alcoholic family, an abusive family. Her father physically abused her and psychologically abused her.
Soon, this couple, each of whom had had a tormented childhood, had a child of their own, Judith. And Judith's mother had a dream.
She had an obsession with having her child become a star, and that's all she really thought of.
She's preparing this little girl. When she was 2 years old, she told me she's going to make a star out of her. I said, you should not do that. I said, you don't know the odds. I said, the odds are 10,000 to 1.
But Maria's dream came true. Judith's meteoric rise from commercials to movie stardom exceeded even her mother's expectations. But their home life stubbornly refused to follow the script.
The hatred was mutual between the two adults. Joe Barsi would come, and the first thing was to my husband, I'm going to kill that whore. One of these days, I'm going to kill her.
Maria is gone, and so is Judith. But we can still hear a first-person account of the horrors of her childhood. Augie Barsi's life with father was the same in almost every detail as Judith's.
The last time I went and visited them, it was really hard because I saw her. We were the same person. It was just incredible. At that time, I really saw how afraid she was. I mean, he used to threaten us all the time, too, about burning the house down, killing us and burning the house down if we left him or if my mother tried divorcing him, that he would kill us all. She told me over and over again that she was afraid.
Judith had every reason to be afraid. As she and her mother packed to leave for the Bahamas location of Jaws 4, her father made his most terrifying threat.
Before they left, he came into Judy's bedroom, closed the door, and took this kitchen knife and put it against her throat and told her that if you and your mother don't come back after the shooting, I'm going to cut your throat.
Once they reached the Bahamas, Maria told everyone who would listen about her fears for herself and Judith.
She was just constantly crying out about how concerned she was and how threatened she felt, almost to the point where nobody took her seriously. It was like, oh, here goes Maria again, just worried about going home to this crazy person.
When the filming was finished, Joe tracked them down at Maria's brother's home and over the phone threatened Judy again.
At that point, Judy dropped the phone and ran to the bedroom, and my little daughter followed her, and both of them were crying because she was so frantic that I never saw such a thing. And Maria picked up the phone, and then Maria was going out of her mind, really. She was really scared.
Joe Barsi had now twice threatened to kill his daughter, and yet, incredibly, Maria returned to him with Judith the next day. Why? Perhaps because to leave Joe, they would have had to go into hiding, and that would have meant giving up Judith's career.
Maria did not work, and there was some concern, I think, if she ran off and left the husband and removed Judith from the business, she was losing a source of income. The income is just in excess of what you would think a child should be or could be earning. She was reluctant for that reason to completely take her and go into hiding. So that was not even an option. It was not even a consideration.
Apparently, Maria was unwilling to abandon her dream, or the rewards that came with it.
And I was trying to tell her, you know, get out, go. The house is not important. Just take Judy and be safe. And she says, no, you know, they've worked too hard for the house. The house was theirs. And if anyone was going to leave, it was going to be my father.
Maria had come up with her own plan of escape. Joe was obsessive about cleanliness. She hoped to drive him from the house by allowing it to become a filthy mess.
She let the house get so messy. I mean, it was disgusting. The first thing I said was, let's clean it up. She's like, no, no, because it'll drive my father crazy. That were her own words. It's going to drive him crazy. It'll drive him out of the house if we don't clean up. So it was a pigpen, a living pigpen.
Caught in a tug of war as the hatred between her parents deepened, Judith began to show physical signs of the strain.
So what she did out of being so nervous and fearful, she pulled out her eyelashes, she pulled out her cat's whiskers, and it's just a nervous habit, being nervous. She needed some way to release that tension.
Judith's agent saw her suffering too and sent her to a psychiatrist. After just one session, the psychiatrist reported Judith to the authorities as an abused child. But just as Judith was finally about to get help from the county, Maria saw another way out. Her niece remembers.
Well, I spoke around Christmas time with my aunt on the telephone, and she was very encouraged about the turn of events. She was very happy that her situation at home was improving because her husband had found another woman, and he was running around with her, and this woman was very well off. And she said she would see a lawyer about it, and she was looking into getting divorced, and that this is the best thing that had happened to her.
When child abuse investigators contacted Maria, she told them she had the situation under control, and they abandoned their investigation. Tragically, Maria completely misjudged her husband.
His family abandoned him, and with Marika leaving him, that he was going to be abandoned again, and he just couldn't take that hurt. So I think that's the reason why he killed them.
Monday morning, Judith was seen riding her bike in the neighborhood. She was never seen again. Augie and Maria's brother believe they know what happened in her final hours from their knowledge of the family and the police reports.
He decided to do this Monday night sometimes after they went to bed.
He couldn't have anyone take the kids away. If he couldn't have her, then no one else would.
He decided to go in first to Judy's room, and he sat next to her, and he put the 38 to her head, and he shot through her head.
He just snapped. He absolutely snapped.
Of course, there was a loud explosion. Maria ran out of her bedroom.
It's just obvious that they had to have a struggle in the hallway.
He shot her also, and she was down lying there.
The police believe that after he murdered his wife and daughter, Joe Barsi wandered alone through the house for nearly 2 days.
My father always thought that he'd be left alone, and he was scared to death to be left alone, just like he was when he was a little boy.
They found Joe Barsi in a garage, on his back with his revolver on his chest, with a shot through his head.
Joe had finally carried out his threat. He and Maria were dead, and so was Judith. Tragically failed by both her parents.
I would think it's both of their faults, Marika and Joe. It took two people to do this, but poor little Judy, she had nothing to do with the whole thing.
I truly believe in my heart, and this is why I think I can get through this. That Judy now is really in a happy place, and I'll probably start crying. But I believe she's in a really happy place right now. And she always wanted to go somewhere where people were happy. And so I believe now that she's in her magic kingdom and she's happy. She really is happy. She always wanted to be, and life for her has got to be better now.